Second World War's Easy Company of the 101st Airborne, known as the Band of Brothers. Their bloody fight across France and Germany was memorialized in an HBO special of the same name, and it turns out that one of the real Band of Brothers grew up right here in northern Minnesota. Dave Anderson puts us in touch with Frank Soboleski, a guy who is as sharp, opinionated, and tough as ever.
The HBO series called Band of Brothers told the world about the World War II service of Easy Company, 506th Parachute Infantry Regiment, 101st Airborne Division. It told the stories of soldiers like Captain Ronald Spears.
He was a 100-proof man. He was just a hell of a good guy.
Sergeant Wild Bill Garnier was also one of the heroes portrayed in the show.
Here's the capital blood and guts was when they took that.
But he was a hell of a good guy. I didn't want him on the other side of me. I like to be his friend.
Frank Soboleski knows those men because he was there too. Now 88 years old, he still is very active and lives at home with his wife Renee. Soboleski grew up as one of 13 children of a farm family near International Falls. When Pearl Harbor hit, he was turned away from the Army for being underage. While waiting for his turn in the service, he migrated to California and was living in a refrigerator box under a bridge when he got a short-lived job as an extra in Western movies.
I think we're on the wrong side. This is no time to think.
I'm still mad at John Wayne because he got my job.
At 18, Soboleski was allowed to join the Army, but washed out of fighter pilot training because of color blindness. Unimpressed with the training in the infantry, he joined the paratroops and became part of the Band of Brothers during the September 1944 assault on Holland. From there, he and his brothers moved to the siege of Bastogne during the Battle of the Bulge.
We were out of groceries, out of ammunition, out of clothes, out of guts.
Soboleski didn't become one of the characters portrayed in the HBO film, but some of his exploits were shown. He was involved in the mission across a German river to take prisoners.
I took my shirt off, greased myself all up off of axle grease, put my underwear back on, tied that rope around my stomach, and swam across the river. Yeah, that brown star, that's the one I got for swimming that river.
The prisoners captured were 2 young soldiers and an elderly member of the German Home Guard.
He said, you know, I had my crosshairs on the rifle, I knew about 10 times.
Pushing into Germany in early 1945, Easy Company liberated the Kaufering concentration camp near Dachau.
And it was boxcars with bones about 4 feet high.
One of the unit's last actions of the war was capturing Hitler's mountain retreat.
And we all hit it at once. And in the end I was in, there was 2 officers, and they come out with their hands way up like that. They wanted to give up.
After the war, Frank Soboleski sometimes felt like giving up too. For years, he suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder.
It's caused from not having any control at all when they're in a situation like Bastogne was. They're totally helpless.
Get out there, relief Dyke, and take that attack on in!
Why wasn't Frank Soboleski a character in the Band of Brothers movie? It's because he kept throwing away the letters from the producers. But he accepted a trip to France for the film's premiere and met up with old Easy Company friends like Bill Garnier and Babe Heffron. Wife Renee says that reunion helped chase away much of the PTSD. Now, there are only 18 of the Band of Brothers left alive. Were they the heroes the book and TV show make them out to be? Or was it all Hollywood hype? Bob Furman of the Bong Museum in Superior says they were indeed heroic, but then so was every other man and woman who put on a uniform in World War II.
They were there when they were asked to go, and that, I think, is heroic in and of itself.
70 years later, Frank Soboleski remains in awe of all of his brothers.
Well, they were fighters, or they wouldn't have been there. They went through all of it and proved themselves, and that's the kind of people you had. You could depend on them.
In International Falls, Dave Anderson, KBJR6 and Range 11.
You won't find Frank's name in the TV show, but you can read about his experiences in a book called We Who Are Alive and Remain: Untold Stories from the Band of Brothers. As we mentioned at the top of the show, one man is in the hospital.